Hey folks, it's Robin. Welcome to this live marketing deep dive, how to get out of overwhelm and get your marketing plan started. And I would say not just started, but really take your company to the next level. Today, I've got a very special marketing deep dive because we're going to be interviewing 5 of my Producers Club members on how they got out of overwhelm and got their marketing plan, not just started, but really took their business and their income, their managed recurring revenue, their profitability, their operations, all of that to the next level. And the 5 CEOs I'm going to interview have done just a fantastic job at implementing a marketing plan for their business. I like to say I was sort of the spark, perhaps, that started the flame. I cannot take credit for their success. I mean, they all worked extremely hard and just dedicated themselves to getting where they are. So this is going to be a great session. You're going to learn a lot. And just to kind of give you an overview, the 1 year, what we were looking at is last year's results. So what did they do last year in sales, recurring revenue, in net profits? And we asked them to show us a year-over-year increase. So from 2018 was where they, the numbers they're reporting, where they started was 2017, and what did that look like in 2018? And of course, now we're just getting started this year. But the 1 year increase for these 5, the average increase was $909,000 in sales, $222,000 plus in net profit, which is really key because anybody can buy growth. But to increase top line and bottom line simultaneously is something that's actually very difficult to do. The other thing is they've increased on average $38,000 in managed recurring revenue. So $38,696 was the average increase each. And I want to point out that was not a collective, that was each. So the focus of the webinar is for them to tell you how they got this done, how they got out of overwhelm, how they went from being an engineer to truly being a CEO of their company, where they got started, how they managed their time and resources, what lessons did they learn, and how are they able to stay consistent, right? And you should know that everybody who's on this webinar started out just like many of you. They're not huge companies with big budgets and huge staffs, and don't insult them by thinking that they got lucky, because every single one of them earned the results just through hard work, determination, working a little bit smarter every day, implementing a little bit more every day, and dealing with the exact same struggles that everyone on this webinar is, from hiring, operations, time management, dealing with family issues, dealing with all the same stuff everybody else does. And please don't sit there and say, well, that might work for them, but won't work for me because I'm too small, or I'm just getting started, or I don't have the money, or any of the other excuses that you're telling yourself, because that's what's keeping you small and struggling. If you think I can't get the same results for whatever reason, you're flat out wrong. I mean, you can get the results if you're willing to put in the time and the effort to it and stay consistent. Because the belief that, I'm too small, I'm not smart enough, I can't do this, that's just going to keep you broke and struggling. What we're going to do is we're going to go through each of them. Some of you have already read their essays when you registered for today's webinar. There was a website where you could download the essays, you could see the results that they got, and I hope that you downloaded that and looked at it, because it'll help you ask smarter questions. So please, we are live. Please post your questions. I've got Jeff on with me. Jeff is going to help me with the questions. Jeff, are you there? You want to say hi to everybody?
Yeah, I'm here. And I was going to say, I was thinking about this, and this is always my favorite webinar of the year, because I'm always shocked and surprised by, you just never know of what the results are going to be. And seeing this year with 909,000, I know by far, by at least a couple 100,000, and it's been going up every year, that the increase in this as an average across everyone and with the net profit increase is phenomenal. So I think everyone's going to get a ton out of this webinar, and then also at boot camp here in a few weeks.
Right. And, the other thing to point out is maybe you're small and you're like, hey, 909,000, that would implode me. So we're not suggesting that everybody has to get $1 million increase to be successful or to get close to that. But I think everybody on this webinar, they're going to tell you that, where they started wasn't, it wasn't like, oh, well, we we did 100,000, then we jumped to 10 million. I mean, there's a process to this, and we're gonna talk to them. So please post your questions, Jeff. Please monitor those questions and stop me throughout. I'll check in with you to see if there are any questions that we need to go through. 3 quick things I want to go over. First of all, this webinar is not going to be a blatant no value sales pitch for Producers Club or boot camp or anything else. I'm sorry. I know that upset some of you because you were really looking forward to a really good, hard sales pitch. So I apologize to those of you who feel that way, but that's not what this webinar is going to be. We're not selling anything. It's literally, there's not a thing to be sold. The other thing I want to make sure that you know is I am in no way do I guarantee I'm not even implying that if you buy the toolkit or you join Producers Club or you come to boot camp that you're going to get these results. I would never, ever guarantee that, nor would I even want to imply that, because I've been doing this for a very long time now. I created the toolkit in 2002, right? So just to give you an idea. And since then we've sold well over, I lost count how many copies of the toolkit, like 8, I know it's more than 8,000 copies that we've sold. So I've seen a lot. And so I've seen brand new startups. I've seen companies I've got clients that are 40 million plus and everything in between. And I've got people who bought the toolkit who get phenomenal results, like the 5 that we're going to talk about today. And then I've got people who buy it and they can't do anything. They can't get the results. So I want to point out that if you're listening to this and if you have the toolkit, you got like not 100% of the resources, because Producers Club members do get some additional resources, but you got like 80%. You got everything you need to get started, to get rolling, to get some results. But I just want to make sure the only person in this world who's going to get you results financially in your business or otherwise is the person that you look in the mirror every morning, brush your teeth with. That's the person who's going to make it or break it. It's not my toolkit. It's not a boot camp. It's not a coach. It's not anybody. It really is up to you. So I just want to make sure that I clarify that. And number 3, we are live. So post comments, questions in the chat. We are recording this, and I will be posting this later on, okay? And again, the website to go to where you can see the 5 finalists we're going to interview, robinsbigseminar.com/BYB 2019. Now, BYB, as you see, Better Your Best. I want to take just a quick moment and explain what this is, because we do have some new members on that are brand new clients and they have no idea what this is. So the reason I created this contest, it's called the Better Your Best contest. I started it over 12 years ago, and that was because it aligns with our mission. Our mission is to build a community of success-minded entrepreneurs that inspires excellence, that encourages collaboration, and expands the capacity of all members to achieve great things. And so we wanted to do a couple things, and that is we wanted to highlight people who were getting results. Not just, hey, look at these great testimonials, but if you're, think about it. If you want to have success in your business, do you want to talk to the 5 people who are winning and achieving and getting the best results, or do you want to hang out with the 5 losers in the back and hear them tell you why it won't work? So naturally, we want to have the people who got it, who are getting results, who are moving their business forward, who can say, here's how I got around these obstacles, time management, resource management, all the things. We wanted to share that with our clients. So we wanted to pick 5 and share that on stage at our annual boot camp. So every year we take 5 of our top clients based on results, results, and we have them on stage and they talk about what they did, the campaigns they used, how they succeeded, and we call it the Better Your Best. And then here's a picture of last year's. You can see they're on stage. Then the audience votes, and the audience votes who they feel should be the winner, who is going to then be spokesperson for my company and ambassador to the industry. Last year was Chris Hoos, Choose Networks. Again, at this point, we've got the 5 finalists picked out, but it will be our clients at boot camp who choose the ultimate winner. It's up to them at this point. So again, we do this to encourage the sharing, collaboration, to give recognition to those who are succeeding, because I think entrepreneurs are the least appreciated human beings walking around on the planet. I mean, we're under attack all the time. So I think it's good to recognize those in our industry that are winning, that are achieving, celebrate their success. And then they're being very generous because they're saying, here's the campaigns, here's the things that we did to get those results. Now, the winner also happens to win a brand new BMW X5. And being spokesperson is way better than winning a free car, right? Let's just get that out of the way. But, I mean, it is a nice little incentive, and it's because I can't have a spokesperson for my company driving around a crappy car. So we actually buy them a car, and they win that at boot camp, okay? So that's what the Better Your Best competition is. That's why we do it, because it shares, it helps everybody in our community get better, get smarter. It gives some recognition to those who are winning. Jeff, anything else you want to add on to that?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add on, I did post up in the chat the link, so if you missed it during the download, I know a number of people were asking when you registered, I posted up the link again that has the essays for everyone, so you can go back there and download those. So double check in the questions there if you're looking for that. Otherwise,
yeah, and the
I think we're ready to go ahead.
Ready to go. Yeah, I was going to say the essays are good because it does detail the campaigns that they used. So they're definitely worth a read. Okay. All right. So with no further ado, I'm just going to get into the interviews, and we're going to start out with Mr. Bob Coppedge, Simplex IT. He's based in Akron, Ohio. He founded his company in 2007. He's got 13 employees. So that's like a coven, right? Bob, you're like head witch or something. Is that how that works?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It is a goal.
So revenues are up 535,000, MRR up 26,000, and net profit up 11 times over 2017. So that is some magic right there. Why don't you just start out, like whatever you feel comfortable, just give us a quick thumbnail of who, like your company, who your customers are, what you guys do. Yeah.
So we're a pure managed service provider, started in 2007. My personal history is actually I'm a former CIO, IT director, developer, technician. So I really never had the break fix world under my belt. Started Simplex IT in 2007, basically had a couple of customers that moved over to the managed service model, and then it's grown from there. We are a little bit odd in a couple of ways that I'm willing to admit to. One of them is we don't have a vertical. So of our customers, probably about a third, a little over a third are manufacturing. Beyond that, they're all over the bloody place. And one of the cool, you get into that whole, what's that value add that your organization brings? And the term we're just circling around is we're the cool guys. In terms of we try to really focus on the relationship we have with our customers, both potential customers and actually signed up customers, and try to make that experience as positive as possible.
Yeah, what a concept, right? Like service marketing starts with the service, right? I mean, that's breakthrough. I mean, and it sounds, we're saying it sounds silly, but it's amazing how many people don't do that, and they want to get more customers, but they can't, they're really not getting much out of what they've already got. So a couple things I just want to ask you about, because in your essay, you talk about it. I think your quote is, it's the system stupid, right? In other words, like everything you're doing, the marketing, everything, that's really how you got this sort of marketing engine off the ground. So talk a little bit about how you got it going initially and now what it looks like today. What have you learned? What advice you'd give to people listening?
So honestly, for the first, if you're really going to take a look at our success, you really got to look more at 2017 than 2018. Because 2017, at the beginning of the year, we basically said, look, we're not going to grow a lot this year. We still did by about 5% or so. But we said, instead, we're going to figure out how to do this. And then in 2018, we're going to knock the doors down. And so we spent a lot of time actually trying, and we started with the basics, with the direct mail, and we just played with it. And we did horrible. We absolutely made every mistake you could make, relatively speaking, but we did so on small scales. So we could try this and work with it. In fact, I remember at one of the quarterly meetings, I reached out to you and Jeff about getting some coaching on the calls, and we did that as well as the voicemails. And we basically just got better because we kept our eye on, here's the goal, it will work. Here's the process, it does get better. So that we basically got it to the point where we know how much time it takes. We know how much effort needs to be put into it. And so then we could scale once we started getting the results that we wanted to get. And then we got into 2018.
And that, yeah, and I think what I got to really underscore what you're saying, because you said, you got started, you did in small, you start out small to iron out the kinks. But I think the key is you didn't give up. And I think a lot of people, they give up way too soon, and then they never get to where they get to success because they never get out of that awkward learning phase, if you will, right? Where they're trying to build the systems and the processes, and so because they stop, and then they got to start all over again, and they do the same thing, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's telemarketing, pick anything, right? Oh, do radio ads. They just they start and they go, well, no, we really tried, and it's like, but you never got to success, and therefore you fail because you stopped short of that. Is that that's what you're saying essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those where you learn just as much, and honestly, in some ways more. You learn more from your mistakes.
Yeah,
and I don't even want to call them mistakes. You try something and it wasn't quite on target. So, so you evaluate it and you say, all right, what did we do? Did we clean the list enough? Did we isolate the list? Did we isolate people according to the right attributes? How do we do as far as the timing, all of that kind of fun stuff? What if we tweak this? And if we do something that's incredibly stupid, which means it was my idea, then we basically say, okay, we will never do this again, and no, we will never speak of this again. But if we did something and we just know it could be tweaked or modified, we did that. And then, but we constantly re-engaged with the conversation of how can we improve it.
Right. And we call it, in marketing, we don't have failures, we have tests. And when I say that, people think it's like a very arrogant thing to say, and I don't mean it in an arrogant way, and it's not like the thinking process isn't like, oh, we don't have failures. It's not. I don't mean it that way, but it's just a healthier way of looking at your troubleshooting, right? It's kind of like, if you, to put it in your world, if you had to troubleshoot a problem on your network, you would try something. If it didn't work, you would try something else. If that didn't work, and I ask people, when do you tell the client, sorry, you're screwed? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, you don't. You keep troubleshooting till you fix the problem, but they don't take that approach with marketing. So, yeah. Okay. Tell me a little bit about your book, because I see you're holding that book up there. Tell me about that and how you use that.
So again, one of the other things that we're always looking for is, how do we differentiate? How are we different from our competition, especially if we're coming out of the gate? And we wanted to have, in the book, and I have to confess, in order for me to offer a book, I had to write the book. It was not, that's just my own brain. And one of the things that I always hear when I'm talking to ownership or management, or the two things I always hear, is, number one, it shouldn't be this hard, and number two, it should just work. Those are the two comments whenever they're talking about their IT woes. And what I wanted to do, though, was to show that we actually are going to help them understand IT better, which is why the book, A CEO's Survival Guide to Information Technology, is written specifically for CEOs that don't want to be geeks, that don't want to understand every aspect of IT. But I did want to explain to them, here are the things that you do have to understand, and you do have to take an active role. Because one of the things we found is that a lot of CEOs abdicate some of the business responsibility to the geeks. And us geeks, we love to be right. We don't care if we're understood. So we do a poor job of communicating, and we're more than happy, a lot of us, to go in and, we'll make the decision for you. Don't you worry your little executive head over what kind of challenges we're looking at. So that's where the book came from.
Okay. And so if somebody's listening right now and they're going, geez, I really have no idea where to get started, what would you tell them?
Well, I think one of the things is first of all, where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And what is, to a certain degree, one of the biggest challenges is, what is it about your organization that is unique or you want to be unique? And then what's the best way of communicating that? And then you basically have to isolate some time and set up, whether it be direct mail or SEO or telemarketing or whatever. What are the strategies that work well as far as how you want to communicate that idea or that vision of who you are as far as your company goes? And then how do you small scale implement it? Because one of the challenges is somebody says, oh my God, I got to lose 50 pounds over the next 2 years. Well, I can't lose 50 pounds today. Okay, well, let's not lose 50 pounds today. Let's lose 1 pound over the next week.
Right.
Let's do that. How do we do it in small scale?
Right.
And then do it.
No, exactly right. Yeah. Let me ask you this. So, because the question is coming up is, what are some of the mistakes that you say you made every mistake? I mean, what can you narrow down to like a couple that you're like, hey, if looking back, these are the 3 big ones, or is there a couple big ones you can talk about?
So as far as mistakes go, actually, one of my favorite mistakes, because I've actually been a client for longer. We did the Apprentice, buy the book and all that kind of thing. And way in the beginning, back in 2009, I did the worst. What is the one with the monkeys? Get the monkey off your back. I did the worst implementation of that whatsoever, where I had a horrible mailing list, sent out to about 400 companies, totally uncleaned list, and did no phone call follow-ups. And for some reason, it didn't work well.
Right. Okay.
and the funny story, the funny thing on that is that it ended up getting us one client. And that client was 7 years ago for $389 per month MRR.
All right.
Now, that client now is $2,000 a month MRR. So I actually have made the money back. But it was one of those where I basically did a brute force campaign. So I tried to, if you do it loud enough and strong enough, it's going to work, as opposed to the small and the finesse.
And do it better every time, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And again, that's why I think, even when we have clients that are just starting with a campaign, I go and I say, look, don't try and, when you do this campaign, go in thinking you're not going to get any results. And I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but think of the win of the fact that you just got it done, because that's kind of the first learning is how do you even pull together a list? Because just even getting a list together and cleaning it is like, for some people, that's like a brand new experience. So you got to get over that hurdle before you can even get to like making follow-up phone calls. That's like another whole thing down the edge or down the line.
Right.
So yeah, for sure.
And if you put it in a technical, if you put it from a technical perspective, if you or your technicians are learning a new technology, and let's just say you're going to do Azure, so the first deployment of Azure, you're going to make 40 servers, 600 virtual desktops, SQL instances you're going to make it one server. You're going to do something that from a technology standpoint, you can learn slowly. It's the exact same thing from a marketing standpoint. Do it small to start with, and then evaluate, learn, and then grow it. Right,
for sure. Cool. All right. Well, just for time's sake, if you want to just hang on the line there, and I'm gonna move along. But thank you, Bob. I appreciate you being on today. Just hang on there, mute yourself. All right. And I'm gonna move on to our next contestant in the Better Your Best competition. It's Miss Satima Fowler, Capstone IT. She's based in Rochester, New York. She started the company in 2003. They have 40 employees now, and revenues were up 1.6 million last year. Net profit over $1 million. MRR is up 63,000. So total badass. Satima, are you unmuted there?
I'm here, Robin.
All right.
I'm trying to be a badass just like you. So.
Right. Well, when we were preparing, so I was like reading through your essay and everything, but the thing I'll never forget, and I know you remember this, you know what I mean? When you first came to me, I remember you were adamant that you're like, Robin, you understand, I'm an engineer. I'm not good at selling. I don't like to sell, but I'm an engineer. I mean, you were like emphatic that you were an engineer and that you could not sell. And I think it was like, for whatever reason, like I remember because it was you and Jennifer Holmes, you were like in my office, right? You know what I mean? We were having this conversation, and now I look at you today, and I know you have a completely different outlook. So, what I would ask is, tell us a little bit about your company, like how you got started, a couple things, right? But then talk a little bit about that transition from being an engineer to where you are today.
Sure. So my husband, Mike Fowler, he's the one, and my business partner, so he's the one who actually started Capstone, him and another tech, back in 2003. And I was working at General Motors, and, you needed somebody to bring in a salary because we didn't make money for a couple of years. And then in 2006, the company was doing okay enough where, I felt like I could quit my job and join Capstone. And the whole goal of me joining was, now my goal was to try to grow Capstone. And that's what I was going to focus on, while Mike kind of focused on servicing our existing clients. And I'll tell you, the next couple of years were super depressing. And that's probably what you heard in my, voice. So even though I have a master's degree and I have patents in engineering, I could not get that phone to ring. And I thought cold calling is it. So I didn't know there was any other way. I didn't have any knowledge about marketing. So I started cold calling, and people would just hang up. Nobody would take a meeting. And I couldn't figure out what the heck, how do people do it? Do you have to be like a born salesperson? Do I just not have the skills? And then we, in 2009, found you and signed up, in the toolkit. And I just was hooked. And then shortly after that, we signed up for the Producers Club. And then the marketing started to work, and we started to sell MRR, and we started to get leads. But here was my thing. Even though we got leads, I could not close the sale. I was like, okay, why can't I close the sale? I didn't know how to relay the value of managed services. I didn't know, I thought I have to come there with some hard sell techniques, and I just wasn't equipped to do that. It took me a while to figure out that, selling is so much about just discussion, so much about just going in and solving a problem, just like I was taught as an engineer. You know how to solve problems. And the better you can solve somebody else's problem, the more they're going to pay you. And once that clicked in my head, that kind of changed everything. And then, I was like, this is so much about a mindset, putting all these barriers that we all do, so that, like you said in the intro of this call today, that's kind of like excuses in our head. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned, is the mindset, the change in the mindset.
So talk about that for you. What was, obviously you're an engineer, right? And I think that you kind of hit it on the head. I think when I see people coming to me and they're like, I'm not good at selling, I'm an engineer, I think what they're trying to say is, I don't know how to sell. And I think they think selling is about manipulation and using heavy pressure. And, it's like you're a good talker. It's like, and when you really get better at sales, like when you really reach a level like where you are, it's so much more relaxed than that. And you start and you go, what was I thinking? Because that's why you fail, because you think it's manipulation and pressure and all this, stupid stuff. And it's really about, like you said, elevating to a coach. I think really good salespeople, they're coaches. Because most clients don't even know what they want. They don't know what they need. They haven't gotten clear on what success is. And so our job as salespeople, I think, is to help them to even just coach them. Here's what let's kind of define success, since you haven't even done that. And then let's talk about options, and it's like you're coaching. Do you find that, like, your mindset about selling, is it changed to that?
Absolutely, because what with selling MRR is it's not a cheap thing, right? You're asking for a lot of money per month, and depending on that prospect situation, they might not be spending anything. They might be using their accountant to do some part-time IT, their neighbor or something like that, to do some computer help for them. So going from that to several thousand a month, if you're in there to ask for that, is a big, it's a big ask. So the thing that I learned from your slippery slope sales process is that you come in and you talk to the business owner about the same challenges that you're facing in your own company. And when you start building that rapport, so you start off by saying, how are sales? How do you get sales? Tell me about, what makes you better than your competitors. So the same things, and you'll see like the conversation goes to another level. Their eyes, spark up. Then go into service. Okay, now that you've got a new client, yeah, how do you service them? Tell me about how do you do quality control? So same things that you're worried about in your business, talk to the business owner, talk to a prospect who's also happens to be another business owner about their challenges, and you'll see the camaraderie and the rapport will build. And at the same time, you're kind of making a connection with technology. So if they say, yeah, we have 5 salespeople, they're all over the country. Oh, well, are you using some kind of cloud or CRM? Are you using anything like Salesforce in the cloud? Like, try to now connect the dots with technology the same time you're asking about the business questions. And in that process, that business owner is going to start to see you not as a sales guy, like the 3 other people he just talked to, but they'll start to look at you like a peer and a consultant. And that's what's going to bring the trust. You need to build that trust to make the sale at the end.
Right. So think back to when you were just starting. I mean, it's you and your husband. You're not making any money. You don't know how to sell. You're like, oh, I'm picking up the call. So somebody who's listening right now might be just at that point where they're trying to figure out the sales process. Like, if you could go back in a time capsule and advise yourself something, like, what would you tell people to get started? What do you wish you had done sooner? What did you learn? I mean, how did you get this whole thing going?
Yeah, so I'll actually give you a better example because I'm getting older, and so I'm getting onset of dementia. No, I'm just kidding. So 2009 was a while ago. So I'll tell you exactly what we're doing. So last year, we decided to open up a brand new office in Florida. And in Florida, nobody knows us, nobody knows me. And we just started with one engineer, and because I don't live in Rochester, so I had to train him, Mike Borlaug. He is in Florida to be the sales guy and to drum up business because he lives there full time. So we started off, step one, anybody he and his wife knows, like in the schools, and there's kids PT, sports clubs, talk to the parents, tell them what you're doing. You're starting out this business. Can they help you? So kind of drum up business or meetings with people you know. The next thing we started to do is build. We had a very small budget for Florida, by the way. So we did, we're kind of starting from scratch, and that's why I'm giving you this example. So then we started using Google Maps, and we started to build our own list. So Sarah Borlaug, Mike's wife, she's a school teacher, but at night, she and I started kind of going through businesses in using Google Maps and started to build a list. And then we would call on that list during daytime and say, hey, we're having a leadership seminar, and I wanted to see if Bob Smith is still the CEO, is still the business owner. And by the way, do you have 15 or more employees? And is B Smith at this the right email for me to send the invite? And then so one by one, we scrubbed that list. And then we started sending emails to those email lists. So none of this, except for our time, has cost us anything up until that point. And so then after a while, we started to see leads come in. And so I started taking Mike to all the sales meetings with me so he can learn from me. And what Mike said was that, Satima, this is so easy. It's like all we do is sit in front of the prospect and talk to them about the same business challenges that we're having and then how they're using technology and building that trust. I said, absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. And so now he's the second person I kind of duplicated my thing. So he's a tech. He's been a tech all his life, and now he's helping me generate sales in Florida. So it's all about I'm changing his mindset that sales is something like so tricky and only a few people know. So he's just going in, talking to them about their business, everything from, their marketing and sales challenges to their service challenges, their billing challenges, and then equating that with technology, and then presenting, how Capstone can help them.
Right. So it sounds like just cold. I mean, you're basically just cold prospecting, but you at least have a process, right? There is some process there that you're following. It's like complete shoestring. How much revenue have you generated from those efforts or clients from that effort?
Yeah, so I would say we really got going about 7 months ago, and now we have just a little bit below 16K in MRR per month.
Okay.
And then we're doing a lot of project work. And what I can tell you is that if 16K is not where I want to be, I want it to be higher than that by now. But, what we're finding is that it is because no one knows us and we're truly, truly, truly starting from scratch.
Right.
It's just going to take a little bit more organically to get our name out there. But now we're doing things like going to trade shows where they are allowing us to speak, and that we're seeing is getting us a lot of traction because now people are seeing us and our name is getting out there, and every time we speak, it is really building credibility in the area. So we're going to do more and more of the trade shows, and then we also started doing the newsletter, the printed newsletter to that entire list that we built so that we stay in touch. So those are some things we just recently added, and hopefully that's going to help us, get to the MRR goals we have.
Right. So, but that's a good example because Rochester, you're doing a lot of other marketing, but you're just giving that as an example of this office that you're starting up. And, because I know, and again, guys, I'll encourage you to download her essay because there's a lot of the pictures and examples of what she's done with the Rochester rock stars and everything. But let me ask you, so one other thing, just if somebody's just starting out, is that what you would recommend they do? Just cold call or like build a list or what else would you recommend somebody just getting started, limited resources do?
Yeah, not cold call. I would say build a list. Build a list using Google Maps everything to try to find businesses in your area.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can start calling to scrub the list. And then after you scrub the list, then emails are free. You can send emails out right away, and then look for speaking opportunities at different associations. Mm-hmm. And then as you start to get some money coming in, then you can do things like the printed newsletter. But I think one of the biggest things that I would say that transformed me in Rochester was listening to Nick Nanton and who's the American Pickers guy?
Mike Wolf.
Mike Wolf, who said, become a little mini celebrity in your area and you'll see all your marketing taking off. So that's what I did in Rochester, and that's what I'm now trying to do in Florida as well. So in Rochester, what does becoming a celebrity mean? Everything from I started a video blog of where I just call up CEOs and I say, hey, will you do a 10-minute success thought leadership video with me? And those videos are now like posted on local newspapers and business journals. So that took off. I do a lot of speaking. I am now asked to be a keynote speaker at top workplace type events. So the more you can become a mini celebrity in your area, all the other campaigns are going to take off. But it takes time, but just get started one at a time. And it really also depends on your goals. If your goal is to be if you're at 500,000 today and you want to be 10 million tomorrow, that's not our story, so I can't help you with that. Ours is, steady growth is the approach that, the path that we've been on.
Right. And I think the key is the consistency. We keep saying it over and over again, but, when you listen to someone like you and you go, oh my God, look at your revenue and your profitability, it's insane, but but I think we're kind of going quick here, but I think what people don't realize is I've seen you grow, and you know, Satima, like everybody else on this call, you're learners. I mean, I've never seen you shy away from buying a book or coming to a seminar or learning something. You know what I mean? You're always looking for that slight edge, and you go back and you implement it. And you might not implement it perfectly. I mean, nobody does, but you implement something, and then you learn more, and you implement more, and you just stick with it. It's like, I think you, like me, like I tell people I'm not good at hitting home runs. But I'm really good at hitting singles and moving guys around the bases. You know, like you do something and it works a little bit. So you do it again and it works a little bit, and you do it again, maybe work a little bit better, you know. And I think so many people, they step up to the plate and they swing and they miss and they go, screw this, you know, and they just, you know, but I think ball games are won by just steady implementation over time, like what you're saying, you know what I mean? That organic growth, paying attention, like in your essay, you talk about paying attention to your numbers, having real metrics and planning. I mean, all of that I've seen you learn, you know, over the years.
Yeah. And, you know, I think one of the things that I see people is that they do a marketing campaign and maybe it doesn't work, and then they give up and they're looking for the next big thing. My advice is just, you know, stick to the 2 or 3. Really doesn't matter if you're doing like the bad date letter, if you're doing, you know, a chamber event, like just stick to 2 or 3 fundamentals and keep doing it, and just don't give up. You know, people go from books to books, seminars to seminars. Just stick to, like, you know, what has been presented to you and just do them, and you'll start to see the results come in.
Consistency, yeah, for sure. Okay, Satima, I'm going to have to keep moving on just to get through everybody. So just hang on the line there, and let me just keep moving on here to Mr. Fred. Fred, are you there?
Yes. Yep, I'm here.
Fred Sangster Associates. Am I saying that right? Because I think you corrected. Yeah, that's right. Because I think Jeff says Sagas. I don't know what he says. Anyway,
nobody's ever gotten it right in 40-something years, so it's nothing new.
I'm blaming Jeff.
He told me it was Sagmeister.
Oh, Sagmeister.
Sagmeister, Sagister. There's all kinds of things that fit well.
Suggester. Yeah, you never know. I mean, we could sit here for a while and come up with some, you know. Anyway, okay. So based in Columbus, founded in 2001, 10 employees. You focus on the dental niche, unless something has changed, right? I think that's it.
No, nothing has changed.
Nothing is it good. Revenues up 517,000 plus, net profit up 641%, MRR 17,000 plus. So just like the others, Fred, just talk a little bit, give us a little lay of the land, who you are, about your company, because you're not just, you've got multiple locations now too, correct?
Yes. We handle that. We market to 4 different cities, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Louisville, Lexington. We handle about 5 different states, completely dental, nothing but the dental industry. It's everything that we've done from the beginning. When I started in early 2000, it's always been dental. You know, based out of Southern Indiana, but we work completely remotely. I sold my office 2 years ago because I was the only one going there, and all my techs work from home in their locations in the different cities. But yeah, we've used technology to kind of bring the team together. So even though we're not in the same building, we're as closer to people than people that are in the same building, you know, in the same office.
Okay, cool. Now, in your essay, I was reading you came to boot camp like 9 years ago, right? And you said, hey, I got some good ideas, a little bit worked, and then I didn't do anything really, and then I came back again. I got all excited. It was awesome, but I didn't really implement. So talk about that. At what point, what was it that finally got you to say, you know, I'm going to be consistent. I'm not just going to get this, you know, once a year bath, right? You know what I mean? Like, what was it? Yeah.
It's that can be explained. The coming to boot camp and then not doing anything can be explained as easy as my ADD kicked in. When I got back to get back to the office, you get caught on other things. I can actually pinpoint it down to the exact date when things changed. There was you did a kind of a little conference in Florida a few years ago that I attended, where I was around you and basically some of the top producers and people that are, people that are trying to figure it out, but people that were just like me for 2 days. And all we did was talk and discuss and plan. That's when things actually changed. I came back, the team around me helped me to keep on track. As far as I don't have my ADD can't quite kick in if I don't have to worry about something else because my team can handle it. So that's the point at which things actually turned around when I made the conscious decision. This is what I'm going to do, and this is how we're going to do it, and nothing's going to stop us.
Right. Yeah, I actually remember that. Now that I think about it, that was at it was like a sale. I wanted I wanted to have a vacation paid tax free, so I put on some stupid little thing in Florida.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I knew exactly what it was. I'm like, I'm paying for your vacation, but I don't care.
Yeah, it was good. That's funny. Okay, so and now you're even a coach, part-time coach. You lead, other members. Talk about somebody's struggling and they're stuck. How do they get out of overwhelm to get started? What advice do you have for them?
It's you've heard other people say it's mindset, but it's step by step. They say, what is it? Journey of 1,000 miles starts with a first step. You have to break it down into chunks. You don't have to get from here to the ultimate goal. It's just, what do I need to do for the first step? And keep doing that. Force yourself to keep doing that until it creates a habit. When we do our marketing, we did one thing and we kept doing it. We did it badly. We, like you'll hear everybody else say we were terrible at it. Well, we were terrible at it too. But once we got in the habit of being terrible at it, now we can slowly create it and get a little better. And then we added something else. We were terrible at that. So we've added more and more things to where now the marketing happens to where everybody's understood this is what's going to happen day after day. And we're going to slowly, we make minor adjustments, slowly get better at it, to bring in more revenue, bring in more clients, just a continuous adjustment as we go.
Right. And I every year I do these interviews with Better Your Best, and I ask them, like, what's the secret? And everybody says the same thing. It's like they just make a decision to get started, but they just stick with it, and they're awful and it doesn't work, but they just keep going back, and then yet people still ask, okay, what's the secret? And I don't know how else to tell them, but it's just like you make a commitment that I'm not happy with where the business is and I want to take it to that next level,
Right. You have to force yourself to keep doing it. Don't let other things get in the way. A client calls their servers down. You go fix the server if you're the tech, if you've got other people to send it to them, but then get back on what you're doing. Don't let anything stop you from doing it.
Exactly right. So the other thing is you focus on the dental niche 100%, and a lot of people are really scared to pick a niche. What's been your experience with that? Or what would you say to that?
My experience with that is I wouldn't have done it any other way. And actually when I first started, I had a little pushback, 18 years ago. My dad was like, you can't just focus on dentists. You're not going to get, you need to do, here we can do lawyers, we can do other people. I said, Dad, I don't have time. I don't have time to do anybody else but dentists. And we've stuck to it to where now when I go into a dental office, we're now the experts. We're the celebrities. I'm speaking at different dental conferences on cybersecurity. So when I walk into a dentist and I've got 3 or 4 other competitors, I've got the advantage because we're the only one that does dental. Do you want somebody who knows your system, who can get inside the client's head, who can understand the dental side of it, or do you want somebody that's going to be that very well may be good at computing and other industries, but do you want them learning on your time? So it's created an advantage for us for every office I walk into.
Right, and it creates fee elasticity. You know, you can charge more because you are the specialist, and all the things that go with that. So another question I have for you. I know you have a gorgeous fiance. Your words, right? You have an incredibly smart, gorgeous, talented. Totally out of your league, by the way. Just saying. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like Tammy. Yeah,
true.
I don't even know how you did that. So how did the marketing must have helped you there? I mean, because you look at her and you go, oh my God, how's this goofball, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. I wish I could say it was that easy. I wish the marketing would have helped to create that relationship, but she actually is one of the people keeping me on track. With the marketing, she oversees the marketing to where I start to do something else. My ADD kicks in. She puts me right back in line to where we're doing this. And if I wander off, when I turn 80 and you see the guy walking down the street because he's lost, it's probably going to be me. Well, Tammy's going to be off doing the marketing, keeping things straightened out.
I just had to, because I know you said in your essay, you're like, put that in there. So I thought that was funny, but no, but she is. I mean, I know her. She is not just a pretty face. I mean, she really does know the business. She's very serious. Because I remember seeing her at an event, and I was like, who is this person? I asked Jeff, and he's like, oh, he's like, because I was like, she's asking a lot of questions, and I didn't mean it like in a bad way, but I just, when I see somebody, I can sense when somebody's a serious student, and when they're asking good questions and stuff like that, and I hadn't seen her before, so yeah, you really, you've got a good one there for sure. So
yeah, and I put in my essay, about, how she's out of my league and gorgeous. And I also tell everybody, make sure you tell her that. Make sure you tell her I said that. So it gives me some good points.
Yeah, exactly. We got to help the man out. Okay. So, no, and again, guys, go download the essays because I'm skipping over a lot of stuff. The essays, you're going to see he details a lot more of the campaigns he actually used, what he did, the growth and goals and whatnot. A question that I think a lot of people have, I see even here, is how, just briefly, how do you manage your techs when they work from home? Because obviously people are worried that they're, taking long naps and they're screwing around and not doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, how do you manage that successfully?
Well, a couple things that we've done. One, I realized I'm not a great manager. So I hired somebody who is a great manager, who gets the best out of people. I'm the visionary. I'll steer the ship, but as far as keeping everybody in line, not my greatest attribute. But some of the things we do as far as technology, we put everybody on camera all day. They sit on, we use a Zoom meeting to where they can mute themselves when on their phone. They can talk to each other just like they're sitting around the table. So my techs bounce questions off each other. Hey, what happened to Dr. So-and-so? What are we doing here? What happened there? It's as if they're in the same room. We use other things as far as, we use a tool, Slack, you guys use it too, to where we have a Where's Waldo channel. They check in where they're going. They check in when they arrive. They check in when they're leaving. So we know exactly where they're at all the time. Plus, when an office calls, hey, Bob was supposed to be here 15 minutes ago when he hasn't shown up. Oh, he's on his way. He looks like he'll be there in about 2 minutes. So we know exactly where they're at. But, it's creating that closeness using technology, even though we're not in the same building.
Yeah. Well, I mean, employees could be in your building and still be screwing around. It's not like impossible. Yeah. They're sitting there they're at their desk, but they got their phone on their lap and they're doing something, on Facebook, or they're screwing around. So, it's not just being there physically, but it does create, an opportunity for people to disappear for sure. So,
right.
Very cool.
And it's a matter of hiring the people that are invested in the company. They want to be here. They enjoy working, to where creating the team. They want to. Our operations manager, they want to work for him. They want to succeed. And creating the mindset. We talk about mindset for marketing. Creating the mindset for the technicians and the operations is another mindset in itself. So they want to do that. It's creating a lifestyle type thing, changing their mind to more of a lifestyle type thing.
You got it. Right. Very cool. All right. Well, that was great. So thank you for that time. Just hang on the line there. And again, I'm going to try and go as quick as I can with each person. Guys, again, I'm just going to encourage you to download the essays because they have a lot more of the meat that we're talking about here. Next, I want to talk to Mr. Bruce McCully, Dynamic Edge. He's based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, founded in 1999, 51 employees. And revenues up last year, 1.5 million, net profit up 40%, MRR up close to 40,000. So, Bruce, you there?
Hey, Robin, I am. Thank you very much for having us today.
All right, very cool. Yeah. So, just like everybody else, give us a little background of who you are and your company, because you have more than one location and you service clients all over. So, just give us a little thumbnail who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Dynamic Edge in 1999, and gosh, back then it was, me. So I'm very familiar with where a lot of the folks are on the call today. And over the years, we kind of built up a little bit and then broke back down, built up a little bit. I called it hitting the ceiling. We hit a lot of ceilings along the way, Robin. And today we have 3 offices. We're in Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Nashville. But we also support a number of users remotely. In fact, we have over 5,000 users that we support up in Maine, which is kind of fun to visit once a year.
Right. Yeah, I think you build offices in places you like to visit, I think is what it is. I think that's exactly what it is, where the good food is, good restaurants, what you like to hang out, right?
Yeah, right. Maybe just a little bit. So Portland's a good town. Let's just say that. Portland.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, for sure. So what's kind of interesting is, your essay starts out that you were a shit-slinging farm boy turned to the proud owner of a $7.5 million IT company that's growing. And I believe that your high school counselor even said that you would be best suited for a bus driver, right? I think that was like when you do the little test and they kind of spit out like, here's what you're going to be when you grow up. So I think, someone might say, oh my God, it's highly unlikely. And you mentioned hitting a lot of ceilings. So I don't know, talk about that.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, that test, those tests are hard. I think maybe we should reevaluate how we're testing kids in school, especially determining where their paths should go.
Right.
But yeah, so when I remember the $3 million ceiling, actually before that, the $1 million ceiling was really difficult to get through. And I kept feeling like we'd get up to about $800,000 a year and something would fall apart. Either we would lose, it would always happen when I'm on vacation. So I'd go on vacation somewhere and I would get the phone call like the 3rd day of vacation. I'm, have tickets, I'm there for 10 days or whatever. I get the phone call on the 3rd day and it's like my star engineer has decided that he's going to take up whatever his new hobby is and he's going to quit. Or my star engineer just got hired by our competitor and he'd like to know if he can take some of our clients with him, whatever the story is. But there was always a story and it was always about the 3rd day of vacation. And finally, we made it through that $800,000 to $1 million mark. And then we were so excited, like things kept going and going. And it was like really quick growth until this $3 million mark. And then it took us maybe 4 years to get through that particular ceiling. And with these ceilings, I mean, the way that I would suggest that people get through them is just, it's going to sound, I'm probably not sounding like any business book you've ever read right now. They always say like, find the right people, manage the people better. You're doing the wrong thing if you don't have people that'll drive their car off the cliff for you. But what I would suggest is if you're stuck at the $800,000 mark, it may not be your people, it may be you. And what I think is that when I'm stuck at a ceiling, I haven't learned how to run my business at that level yet. And so I keep trying different things, but I keep my core items that we're really good at. I just keep doing those: managed services, maintenance, all of those components. And then I just keep trying different things until I get over that little hurdle. And then all of a sudden it's easy again. And what I feel like is maybe I learned the trick to deal with 50 employees, or maybe I learned the trick to deal with 3 employees, just depending on where you're at in your journey.
Now, it's kind of interesting to me because you've grown, you've got, how many employees did we say you had? You had 51 or something. What was it? Do you think do you think like with the employees as you grow, do you find it's getting easier to find people, harder to grow? Like now, you start out with nothing and now you're at, you're getting up to 7, 8, 9 million. And Kevin O'Leary said something to me once. He said, if you can get to 5 million, you can get to 50. So what he said, and I asked him to explain it to me. He said, because once you get beyond 5 million, you know how to delegate, you know how to get a customer, you know how to keep a customer, and you know how to delegate. He said that's what everybody breaks down at 5 million because they can't do those things. So, get a customer, meaning the marketing, right? And then the employees seem to be the next, because as you grow, then the next problem is you got to find people to do the work, right? So when you say you were hitting these ceilings, what was it? Was it you unable to think clearly? Was it belief systems? How did you overcome that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would definitely lean on the lack of good delegation being the first ceiling that you have to get over. And that, when I say good delegation, I mean like the little stuff. I remember when I first started, right? So it's me. I'm pretty good at fixing computer stuff. And so I would go out and I would fix a bunch of computer stuff, and I would ask people, who else they recommend I work for, and just kind of
bumble
work
around,
from
do
person
whatever.
to person.
Yeah.
And I swore I didn't need any marketing because, clients come to me through referrals and all of this stuff. And I remember the first time that I was like, I'm not gonna be able to pay my rent. And I'm busy as heck. What the heck is going on? Like, why can't I pay my rent? And so I sat there and I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, well, it's all these clients. These clients aren't paying me. Why aren't these clients paying me? Oh, it's because I haven't invoiced them. Why haven't I invoiced them? Well, because I've been doing the things I loved instead of the things that I needed to do in order to run the business. And so like that lesson when I was really, really small paid off as we grew. And that lesson was I needed somebody that was a lot more disciplined than I am when it comes to the books, like getting invoices out, and all of the other bits. Kind of as time went on, I realized, hey, this is a spot that I'm not so good at. I need to find somebody that's great at it and then train them on what I was doing and hope they improve it. So that's what I think, delegation is the key.
Okay. And then the marketing, because do you think, did you enjoy marketing when you first started? Because I know your story in your essay, you lost your biggest client, which was Borders Books, right? And all of a sudden overnight, you're like, oh my God, we lost half of our annual revenue just in one fell swoop. Do you like marketing, or did you kind of begrudgingly start to do it, or was it just sheer desperation? Talk a little bit about that.
I love marketing, Robin. Marketing's my favorite thing ever. I want to be your spokesperson, please. No, I'm just kidding. Marketing is not my gig. And I honestly, I would rather be sitting in a basement working on a VMware server, figuring out how to like come up with the next web solution than writing a marketing letter. And I remember when I first met you and I was at boot camp and I was thinking about becoming a producers club member. I remember I raised my hand. I was like that annoying asshole. I raised my hand and I was like, so are you going to teach us how to market? And you were like, yes. And I was like, shit, I don't want to do this. I was like, that is not what I'm interested in. I want you to tell me like all of the marketing. I just want it done for me. Now, over time, I've changed my tune a little bit, but definitely was not my favorite thing. I was terrified of it. I carried a whole bunch of head trash around with me about, I didn't really understand the difference between marketing and advertising, and I thought salespeople were bad. So yes, I definitely carried some head trash around.
Right. So you start out the marketing. I know, that you started doing this, and there is a difference now between, I want to just underscore for people. I really do think, I know everybody who comes to us wants me just to wave the magic wand, write the check, bring the customers to me, Robin. That's what everybody wants, right? And I get it. But I also know that kind of abdication of that responsibility, it never works out. And that's why you hear IT companies saying, well, we tried Facebook, or we tried telemarketing, or we tried this. And what they really did is they either wrote a check to somebody and they were supposed to do it for them, and of course it never worked out, or they kind of half-assed it or something like that. So I'm, as you're growing your company, I know you have a sales manager now. I believe you have a marketing person now, and they help you get this. But talk a little bit about how important it is for people to know how the marketing works in order for them to grow the team, right? I mean, you've got a lot of head trash. You've overcome that. Now you understand at least the fundamentals. You're not stuffing envelopes at your dining room table, and you're not going on all the sales calls. So, talk about how, but I think you understand it now, at least what's supposed to be done, how it's supposed to be done. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Robin. So, when you said that, when you stood up in front of me and said, Bruce, I'm going to teach you how to market, and I was like, ooh, I'm not really interested in that. I did it anyways. And I was stuffing the envelopes. Now my mom and dad help stuff the envelopes, so I delegated that. So I was stuffing the envelopes. I was taking your marketing letters and putting my logo on them and changing where it said insert address here to my address. And at first that was all I really knew how to do. But I did two things that were important, and a couple of other folks have mentioned this on the call as well. One is I took baby steps, and I celebrated every time that something came in from either the marketing or a sale, just little things we would celebrate. I mean, we celebrated that one of the folks that we sent a marketing letter out, we had been working on for years, trying to get in front of them, trying to become one of their bidders. And they faxed back that form, that yellow form in the back of the mailer. They actually faxed it back to us. We had a big party that day. And so the point is that baby steps, celebrating when we get stuff right, just like everybody else is saying on this call, start small, and don't worry if you don't understand why a headline has a word underline, or try to figure out how to rewrite the letter. That's not the point. The point is Robin, you're giving us great materials that we just need to execute and follow the recipe.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Okay. So I think again, you're reiterating it. We're hearing the repetition here, and I know, I'm seeing some of the comments, and everyone kind of wants it broken down to some sort of a perfect, but really it's about doing something, doing it consistently, expanding it, growing it, not questioning it. Because I always tell clients to imitate before you innovate. So if I give you the bad date campaign, do it exactly as prescribed, follow all the steps, and do it 10 times, repeat it 10 times to a new list every time, because by the 10th time, you're probably about getting it right, if you're paying attention anyway, and saying, what do we, going back to what, like Bob Coppedge was saying, you do it, you do a debrief, what do we do right, what do we do wrong, you do it again, another debrief, make it a little bit better, next thing you know, you wake up and you're almost $8 million in revenue, so I think that's really, really key. So any other final words of advice, because I want to move on to Charles. I know we're going a little bit long here, but any other final advice to those who are just getting started?
Yeah, just one last thing. The numbers that we shared and that you went over when we first started the call, they don't include clients that we fired last year. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because if there's the one thing that I wish I would have done when I was first getting started is I wish I would have fired the pain in the ass clients. And when you fire a client and the next day your team shows up with a big cake in the form of that client's logo, you did something right for the team, but you also know you did something right for yourself, because that's going to give you the time that you're struggling to find right now, because those clients that are a pain suck up a lot of your time as an engineer or a business owner, guys. So that would be my one recommendation.
Yeah, and I think, that's good, because as you start doing marketing, what stops a lot of people is they say, holy shit, I just got 3 new clients. I can't handle anymore, and they stop the marketing. What they really ought to be doing is, if the marketing's working and the 3 clients are good ones, get rid of the 3 that are a pain in the ass, and now you've just upgraded your client base. But don't stop the marketing. They forget. I think when I've done a lot of interviews with people who are now doing 30 million, 50 million, 100 million, and so forth, to grow their company. And one of the biggest things that they do is as they grow their organization, they upgrade their clients. So now they get to a level, where, if you're just starting out, you're a one-man band, it's going to be really hard for you to land a big managed services contract with a hospital. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be really hard, because they're going to look at you and go, yeah, or you might not be able to handle the work. But, you get to a certain level where you go, we're at a level now, we could take on a hospital, and we can take on a company that has 500 employees, and we could do, project work or managed services or whatever. And you upgrade your staff, you upgrade your clients. And I think a lot of people, like to your point, which I think is a real valid point, as your company grows, the people that got you from where you were to where you are today, meaning the people being clients and employees, might not be the ones that get you to that next level. And so you really have to top grade your clients. We call it, pumpkin planning after Mike Michalowicz. But, you pumpkin plan your clients, you get rid of the cheapskates, you add on better quality ones, employees, the whole bit. And that's how you grow with some sanity anyway. So, perfect. Okay, Bruce, I'm going to have to move on. All right,
Thanks,
so just hang there. Thank you. And then I'm going to, last but not least, Charles Swihart, Preactive IT Solutions, based in Sugar Land, Texas, founded in 2003. He's got 7 employees. And I think what's really most interesting about his story is he completely transformed from break fix to managed services. So revenues are up 404,000, net profit up 117%. MRR up to $100,000 per month. And I think that's really key because, you've literally transformed from a break fix shop with, I think you were 981 customers to now you're an MSP with $100,000 per month in MRR. So Charles, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, at the end of 2015, we had 981 customers. And as of the end of 2018 or going into 2019, we're actually got rid of about 95% of them. We're down to, we only have 43 or 44 MRR customers, but they are $107,000 a month between them. And what we did when we started out, we were computer repair. We would fix a computer for anybody. We'd go to your grandmother's house and fix her computer and her. I remember all these old ladies with their stupid Yahoo games and having to fix Adobe Flash plugins and things like that for people. But so as we started signing some MRR and some commercial contracts, we said, okay, if we're going to make this transition, we have to get rid of the bottom tier. Not that there was something wrong with those people. They're not ideal clients for us. And so what we took baby steps and kind of said, okay, these residential things we're doing, let's say it's going to be a 2-hour minimum because the ones that stick, we're going to lose a bunch. And the ones that stick with us, we're going to make more money on. We're going to quit these going out for 45-minute things. And so we went to a 2-hour minimum. And then months later, as we brought in some more good revenue, we said, okay, we're not going to people's houses anymore. If a residential customer wants break fix, they can bring it into our office. And then eventually we stopped doing that. And then eventually we said, no more break fix for any commercial customers. That was a year ago. And all we're going to do is managed services. Bear in mind, I have 5 technicians working for me. There's me, 5 technicians, and I finally hired a marketing person that are supporting these people when I used to support them with like 9 techs. So I'm supporting more revenue with significantly fewer technicians.
Wow. I mean, what was the there must have been a point where you said, this has got to change. I mean, what was that turning point for you?
Well, first of all, that business model, it's a life of stress. You're starting every month. Yeah, you're starting the break fix. You're starting every month at 0 in revenue. And I remember laying awake at night wondering how we're making payroll. I've used a home equity line of credit to make payroll before, twice.
Wow.
That doesn't happen anymore. And my kids' situation, we've got a lot of medical issues with the kids. I needed to make more money. And we've just been growing organically year after year, slowly but surely. I mean, we were 12 years in, and we were in the 800 to 900,000 in revenue. Anybody could be anywhere, but I felt like we should have been a few million by then. And it wasn't enough for me. I needed this thing to grow faster. And, that's when I ended up at a road show. I'd been throwing those mailers away from you for years on those things, right? And that one hit me that day, and I'm like, I got to do something. So let me go check this thing out. And I ended up in Dallas, and it was a scary thing to do because the financial commitment to join Producers Club that day, you're talking was something like 15% of my net profit that I'm just kicking out the door. Investing into this new marketing, and it's a lot of money. Today it's not because I see the value in it, right? It's like our services aren't that expensive to the client that sees the value. And today I absolutely see the value in it.
Right. Well, you're in a different place. And I think that, I appreciate that, when people look at whether it's Producers Club, Toolkit, or whatever they're doing, that, they're in a place where they don't know success yet. It's like, It sounds like when you're talking, back then, you're like, you couldn't even see I bet back then you couldn't even see where you are today. Like if I
Oh,
came to you
no.
that day, you came up to me and I'm like, Charles, don't you worry. We're gonna be talking, in
In 3
February of
years.
2019, right? 3 years, and this is where you're gonna be. You'd be like, you're smoking something. You know what I mean? Like you probably
Yeah.
didn't even have the vision. So, let me ask you this because it's a question that's coming in. When you decided to make that transition from these break fix to manage, like, what was the most challenging aspect? What was, and then what was easier than you thought when you decided to do this?
So the big scaries were, I'm sitting at that point when I joined Producers Club, we had 27,000 in MRR with a few commercial clients, but we still had all this residential and everything. And you're talking for me to shut off break fix. If we just turned the key, said no more break fix, it's something along the lines of 70% of our income would just bye-bye. Well, we'd be out of business. I'd be homeless, right? Can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so even when, I casually speak of these, we're going to do it to our minimum, or we're not going to go to people's homes anymore. Those were scary steps along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found out within a month of each step was, this is working. This is okay. It's getting better. And something Bruce was talking about a minute ago about firing customers. We brought in 47,000 new MRR last year. That was net. Technically, we brought in 51 or 52 in MRR. We fired 5 or 6 last year. And to have a conversation 3 years ago, if you told me 3 years ago that there'd be days I'd walk into the office and say, guys, we just signed a new client, who we firing? And my guys are laughing and going, oh, this accounting firm, they need to go.
Right.
I would have never thought we'd be firing revenue. I just signed a $12,000 a month contract. Who are we getting rid of?
Mm-hmm.
And so you bring 12 in the door and you kick 3 out,
Right. And I think and a lot of people are scared of that. And it's not to say that not all clients are created equal. And there's a saying that the customer's always right. And I remember, I think it was the founder of Southwest Airlines, who said, if you believe that, if you believe that, then you have no respect for your employees. You have no respect for yourself, right? Because the customer isn't always right, So, I think you're saying it in the spirit as I'm understanding it, is that, when you first start a business, pretty much you take any check, you'll take any piece of business that'll come your way because you're hungry, right? But then as you learn, and that's part of why you want to learn, you want to get more sophisticated in marketing and operations and everything, and selling and gaining confidence to raise your prices, because that's an evolution. And as you evolve, you get the opportunity to serve customers who are willing to pay more and who appreciate you and allow you to do your best work, not the customers who are they just can't see the value and they just want the cheapest provider. And I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah. And one of the cool things is, as you start getting some success, you start signing some bigger contracts, you start getting a little more ballsy on your I tell people that the most profitable thing I ever heard Robin Robbins say behind a microphone on that stage was, don't be afraid to put big numbers on the paper. All that crap is in your head. And I started putting bigger and bigger numbers on the paper, and people were still signing contracts, and they're like, okay. And so the more successful you are, the more confident you become, and then the more successful you become.
Right. Do you remember what the first couple campaigns you kicked off were?
Oh, I know the very first campaign I kicked off was the Sneaky Duck. And it was my Sneaky Duck turned into I don't know. It didn't work well. I didn't work well. So we put it was right after that guy that was down in Florida or Georgia somewhere, Southern something systems. He had done that Sneaky Duck where he put the rubber duck in the box, and he was doing, I think he did a Golden Globe on it. And I said, oh, okay, I'm going to do that. And we bought all these boxes, and my daughters were sharpening the addresses on the boxes, and we're stuffing ducks in there. And I made a unique shock and awe page, online shock and awe for each one. And I sent out a bunch of these things, and I made to probably sent out 260 of them, I think, to accounting firms, and it I made dozens of phone calls before I just got discouraged, whatever, and didn't see it through. And so, of course, I didn't get anything from it. But and what's funny is that was to accounting firms, and we ended up firing most of our accounting firms.
Right. So what campaign did you do that did work? Talk about like when you went back to these break fix. I mean, did you convert any of your existing customers? I mean, talk about how you did that.
We did break fix. The way we did the break fix was kind of the conversion is we sent out emails with, modified template letter to a bunch of them. And basically you got a few responses and you go do some quotes. And we had this weird phenomenon, and maybe others have seen this, where someone you're doing break fix for, if you provide them a quote for managed services and they don't want to do the managed services, then they quit calling you for the break fix too. It just without you saying, I'm not, even if you don't push I'm not going to do this today, I'm going to cut you off today, they'll cut you off. It's a strange phenomenon. But so we did, we emailed break fix campaigns out to folks. We got a little response there. Some people would leave over it. And then as people were still calling us for break fix, we would present them with, sign this letter. We're coming out to fix this stuff, but we can see your backups are messed up. And the denial of service letter, I remember doing with one company, and it irked them. It really pissed them off, and they didn't want to sign it, and they quit doing business with us. I've never seen someone actually sign that letter. They either just leave in revolt, or they converted and they signed up for managed services.
Okay.
But most of our break fix people eventually went away. We didn't sign a lot of them. And the first mail letter campaign I did that worked was the Godfather letter. That was the second thing I did, was a Godfather letter. But before I did it, we had decided by that point to niche on engineering and construction firms. And we put together testimonials from those firms so that, when we send the testimonials out, it's from other companies like them. And my letter is saying things about their AutoCAD and their Revit and the problems that they might be having with those things that I know the people in that industry have. And we got several meetings out of that, and we only signed one contract out of that Godfather campaign. And the total contract value for that contract is over $500,000 for 3 years.
Okay, so not too bad. Not too bad.
It was about a $46,000 project coming in the door, and $12,850 a month, and it's actually gone up. They've actually gone up a little bit because they grew.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like the break fix clients, as they called in, you converted them as you could, started selling a little bit, but really it was more net new that you went after targeting different businesses, correct? Most of our MRR is new. The old MRR we had are the guys that are $600 to $3,000 a month. Our new MRR. So this is an interesting thing. In 2017, we sold more contracts than in 2018. I think we sold 11 in 17, but they were an average of 1,800 and something a month. The average contract of the 11 we sold last year was 5,500 a month. So we nearly tripled, or just about tripled our average contract size that we were selling. I mean, we sold, if you look at the total contract value, we sold over $2 million in contracts last year. Wow, that's great. Just good. And it's just a matter of, I don't mean to make it sound simple, but it sounds like it was really a lot of just a mindset change for you. Like
yes,
you can do this.
And it's not, you can do this. You got to quit being a tech as soon as you can and focus on the marketing. And I hope one day that I'm at a place like some of the bigger guys are. I know I will be, so I've hired my first marketing assistant now, right? And so she's scrubbing lists, she's stuffing envelopes, she's making postal runs. And I was doing that stuff a year ago. And eventually I'm going to hire another salesperson. It'll be nice when I'm sitting on top of that sales infrastructure and somebody else is automatically doing that. So that's the part where I'm still in the nuts and bolts, is I'm still in the nuts and bolts of marketing and sales in my business.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, so am I. I mean, I'm not stuffing envelopes, but I think the more I get what you're saying though. So I think
I see a day where I'm going to do the close maybe, or I'm in that first meeting or something. Somebody else is I hate the quotes. Somebody else is putting the quotes together. But one of the first things you got to do though in this formula is you got to get your sales process better, because IT guys stink at sales. So we can do all this marketing and we can have all these meetings. Well, now you need to close some of them. And so that's where things like shock and awe box and a lot of the documents that you provide with the doing a done for you book and doing the client bill of rights and the IT comparison chart, where you can point out and say, look, this is what most guys do and this is what we do that's different. And so we have things on our IT comparison chart like, hey, we support your AutoCAD and Revit and other engineering stuff. We do this stuff all day long. Do your other guys do that? I've heard you talk many times about, if you can tweak this thing and tweak this thing and tweak this thing. Well, that sales process was huge. Being able to go in, we used to go in with basically flyers saying, this is what IT service is. This is what we do. Instead of now we're using rapid fire tools and we're going a deep dive on their network and then coming back to them and say, look, we see this problem and this problem and this problem. We bet you guys are experiencing this and this. And oh yeah. And so that consultative sales approach has helped tremendously.
Right.
So we got more leads, we got more meetings, but we're better at sales too.
Okay, and is that what caused the deal size to increase? You think it's just you got better at sales, or were you targeting different people?
We started targeting bigger and bigger customers, and we quit. I quit this. Well, I know who else is bidding on this. Man, I got to be less than them, and I quit focusing on that and focusing on I got to be better than them, not less than them.
Right.
And so, we lost one this week. It would have been about 6,000 in MRR. And the guy said, look, you did a really good job selling your company. And I know you would have done a good job for us, but it was just a budget issue. And I could not get a bigger number than what these other guys were putting forth through. So I had to go with the cheaper option. Like, well, okay. Call us back when you need us,
Yeah. Well, I think if I've heard guys say to me that they cannot, they're like, I can't overcome the price challenge. I keep losing customers to price. And I'll ask them, okay, so what are you charging? And they'll say, well, about 75 a workstation, maybe 100 a server. I'm like, you are so low price. I mean, I had a guy who actually told me he was only charging $20 per workstation for quote unquote managed service. I'm like, managed services? Yeah, all you can eat managed services. I said, for 20 I said, what the hell are you? He's like, of course you wouldn't make any money, but he's like, I'm losing customers on price. And it's so I just want to point out, guys, that, so much of the emotional side of price is always in the seller's head, not the buyer's. Like all the angst, all the uncertainty, all of that is always in the seller's head. Never, it's the buyer doesn't have that emotion. They're just like, what's the fee? I mean, what's the price? It's like, they're asking what time is it? And if you can't answer the question, like if I say, Charles, what time is it? If you can't answer it as natural as that, your price, then you got to get over your emotional hangups. And that sounds like a lot of what you have done. So that's phenomenal.
If you took all the contracts we've signed in the last year and added up those users and divided the revenue by those users, it's going to be somewhere between 125 and 150 a user per month.
Okay. Just on average, right. It's great.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So I'm getting close. I'm over time, and I have a million other things I'd like to ask you and all the other finalists. But is there any last piece of advice that you would have for the people listening to this?
Dive into the dashboard. Compare your sales process to some of the things you're seeing on there. put together your shock and awe box. For heaven's sake, go read the Pumpkin Plan. That is, I think anybody that was on this call would probably tell you that's one of the best books they've ever read in their lives. The Pumpkin Plan is going to help you figure out who your best clients and prospects are. And there you can start to figure out how, and it's going to help you figure out why and why you would be a better value to them than the next guy would be.
Right. And we'll make sure that everybody, I think that's a resource we have a video of Mike Michalowicz we make available to all Toolkit customers now. So, we've got that. And if you go up to the dashboard, you can search Pumpkin Plan and you can find it up there. And
just make the time to do this. Quit being a tech 40 hours a week or 80 hours a week and make this the priority and let your employees, as much as you can, do the tech stuff and try to. I'm fortunate that I have a manager working for me now who pushes me when I walk into the other room and start sticking my nose in the tech stuff. He says, "Hey, you're the marketing department. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
We got it."
Right.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. That is the hardest part, I think, is letting go, and it's easy to let go. See, everybody wants to let go of the stuff they hate, like the sales side. Like, yeah, I'd love to hire somebody, just let go of that, and they want to keep being the tech. But being a CEO, you are chief revenue officer. You're in charge of growing the company, and that involves who's our target market and what do we charge and what's our strategy to get there. That's marketing, and that's the piece that you can't delegate. We were talking like with Bruce a moment ago, definitely hire people to help you, marketing people, salespeople and whatnot. But, what your unique selling proposition is, what target market you're going to target, what are your price points, your strategy. See, all that has to come from the CEO, and I think a lot of people, they try to delegate that, or they don't understand that that's the core of marketing, and then they never get beyond it. So, all right, Charles, thank you. And guys, I know we went a little bit over here. I think I actually had it for 90 minutes, but we're still like about 8 minutes over. I'll remind you, if you guys want to read these essays of the 5 finalists, it's up here on the website, robinsbigseminar.com. I am going to put this URL here in the chat right quick for all the audience. So, and I really would encourage you guys, to go up here, read these essays, because the essays, this what you can see here on my screen, click here and download it. It gives a whole lot more to the story of these 5 finalists, and I think there's a lot to be learned here, and I hope all of you got a lot out of it. And they will be presenting at boot camp on stage, and if you're coming to boot camp, I know a lot of you are, you can definitely stop them in the hallway, buy them a cup of coffee, and say, congratulations, and get other questions answered. So I'll just say briefly to the 5, thank you all. I appreciate you, Fred, Charles, Bob, Bruce, Satima. You guys are awesome. And all I can say now is good luck at boot camp. Jeff, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, but I thought someone wanted to jump in there.
I think it was Charles.
No, it was just me. It might have been Charles there. Now, looking forward, boot camp in 2 weeks from today. So I know a bunch of you were posted in the chat. Sorry to scare you, Robin.
I know, I'm freaking
2 weeks
out.
from today.
I'll start working on my presentation.
Looking forward to seeing each of you and 1,000 or more of your best MSP friends here that are doing the same thing. So, it's really going to be a great boot camp.
All right. Thanks, everybody. With that said, we're going to wrap up.